Hey guys, hope you guys are doing well and everything about your home is going pretty well as well. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. But one of the things I want to talk about today is kind of a sad story, but I want you guys just be knowledgeable, prepared, and have a resource to kind of go through in case this happens to you. And God forbid these things happen to you. So before I get started right into it, just so you guys know, we're going to be talking about how does the owning a house impact your having a death in the family of those who own the house or are going through a divorce. So, but I'm going to go into first before I get started. I want to do a dad joke real quick. So this was actually given to me by a friend of mine, a real estate agent friend too. You guys might have worked with her. Her name's Ronnie LaCory, and she gave me this really funny dad joke. Why does a chicken go to the gym? Why does the chicken go to the gym? To work on its pecs. Pecs. Anyway, getting right into it. All right. So when it comes to deaths and divorces of those who own a house, or they have their name on the loan or on the title and things like that, it can get very, very dicey in regards to going through that process. Now, when it comes to divorces specifically, it all depends on what state you're getting divorced in and who's on the title and on the loan. Now, if you're on title and on the loan, typically I have a lot of clients in Washington State. Washington State's a community property state, right? Typically, non-community property states a little bit easier to get divorced in. However, when you're in a community property state, it gets a little weird because sometimes the spouse cannot be on the loan, but they can also be on title. Either way, it makes things very, very complicated. Now, when it comes to divorces, a couple of things what I've seen can happen. Typically, one of the buyers, one of the borrowers, one of the homeowners has to leave the house, right? And then it's forced to realize who's going to take the house. Now, when it comes to VA loans specifically, when so the thing about the VA loan is that it's stuck on the veteran. So if the spouse stays and is not a veteran, the veteran still has their name on the loan, which means their VA entitlement is still stuck on the loan. To get them off the loan, the loan would have to be refinanced into the spouse's name of who's staying. Vice versa, let's say the veteran is staying in the house and the spouse is leaving. Typically, they would want to be out of they want to be on the loan at all or don't want to be on title at all. Typically, what needs to happen out of those situations is that a refinance would need to happen. Either if it's the veteran's leaving, then it'll be refinanced to a non-VA loan. If the spouse is leaving and the veteran's staying, then it would be a normal VA refinance to get the spouse off. Now, sometimes these divorces have either um, some kind of a settlement. So what I've done in the past is that whenever there was a divorce settlement in place, we would get a divorce decree in regards to and have it specifically state what the divorce settlement will be, and then we'll use that to include that as part of the cash out refinance to settle out. That way, and sometimes the settlement will help avoid any alimony fees or anything like that. So, for example, I had a client that had a $20,000 settlement in his divorce, and he wanted to time the cash out refinance like as soon as the divorce paperwork went through. And that's exactly what we did. We basically increased the loan amount. He got the 20 grand he needed. That way he could settle out the divorce. Doing it that way, it does make sense instead of having taken out a $20,000 personal loan. $20,000 personal loan is probably going to be around five, six, $700. On a mortgage for about the same rate, it might change your payment by maybe $200. So a little bit better to do it through a cash out refinance instead. Another thing I told people to do, depending on how mortgage rates are, I recommend maybe taking out a second lien or a HELOC. A HELOC is a home equity line of credit, just is a way to leverage your equity and turn it to a line of credit. The other option is to sell the house and then both parties settle out and then both parties go on their own way to buy their own house, and that's totally fine. So that's one way to go through a divorce situation when you both own a house together. So there's ways to keep the house, but sometimes the only other option is to sell the house, depending on the situation. Um, in some cases, it also depends how long you've owned the house until you got divorced. I've had some clients that got divorced within months of buying the house. In that case, you probably don't want to do a cash out refinance because you may not have enough equity. Best thing to do is probably sell the house in that case. Um, the next thing is deaths. Deaths are really extremely unfortunate. I had to, experience something like that last year with a family member. However, with deaths, it's not as complicated. The simple answer is as long as it's specifically located in the will on who's going to start handling the housing payments, that's really all that needs to happen. You don't really need to do any other changes outside of filing the will with the title and escrow company and with the mortgage servicer. When I say mortgage servicer, that's the company that you pay your mortgage payment to. Then they'll say the estate of the person that passed away, and then you, as the person who's taking over the mortgage payment, would be paying making that mortgage payment. Now, I have helped a client whose dad had passed away many years ago. The will was very clear that it was passed down to his son. And after so many years, he decided to finally refinance the house officially into his name. And his dad was a veteran. As a VA loan, he was able to, and also his dad was a veteran and he himself was also a veteran. So he was able to basically refinance a VA loan into a VA loan, switching the name. Now, if you are not VA eligible, you have to be in a non-VA loan, conventional FHA, whatever the situation. But you have to be the veteran in order to refinance. The only time the VA loan gets passed down to a spouse is if the veteran died due to service-related reasons or service disability reasons. So that would be an option for the spouse to refinance or just keep it as is, depending on what's required. The only reason why you would cash out is if you need cash that moment to either settle out, pay off some debts, whatever you got to do. So it just depends on the scenario. There's many ways to basically cut the pie. Um, Now, and just something to consider as things happen. So it's kind of a sad subject, but I just want you guys to have a resource and knowing that these are a few options that you can exercise whenever that situation happens. I had to deal with it with some clients in the past, so just make sure you guys are prepared. Anyway, so I got for you guys. Hopefully, you guys are having a great start to your year. You guys might have gotten an email from me today or recently that our Veterans Lender Group division has become its own company, and make sure you guys are emailing me at the right one. So I'll make sure it's also in the comments as well or in the description. Otherwise, that's all I got for you guys, and hopefully you guys have a great 2023. That's all I got.